In the sprawling cities of Earth, the buzz of technology and the hum of human ingenuity never ceased. Skyscrapers stretched towards the sky like metal trees in a concrete forest, their surfaces gleaming with the reflections of sun and neon. It was a world thriving on advancement and connectivity, where every human was linked by networks of data and digital pulses. Yet, beneath this shimmering veneer of progress, discontent simmered among many of its citizens. The discontent stemmed from years of environmental degradation, social inequality, and corporate exploitation that had widened the gap between the wealthy elite and the common populace. The governments of the world, often under the sway of powerful corporations, struggled to address these mounting issues effectively. It was during such a time of silent crisis that they arrived, aliens known as the Vortani. Their massive ships appeared in the skies one ordinary morning, casting great shadows over cities across the globe. Panic ensued initially, but the aliens quickly broadcast their intentions. They came in peace and sought only to establish trade and share knowledge. Global leaders tentatively welcomed these new visitors, intrigued by the possibilities. The Vortani offered advanced technologies and solutions to many of Earth's most pressing problems, from energy production to medical treatments. In exchange, they asked for access to Earth's biological resources, particularly interested in the planet's diverse flora and fauna. However, not everyone was convinced of the Vortani's benevolence. A group known simply as the Angry Humans, formed from a coalition of activists, scientists, and ordinary citizens, distrusted the aliens' motives. They argued that Earth was being naive, too quick to trade away its resources for shiny alien tech that might ultimately prove more harmful than helpful. As the governments of Earth and the Vortani proceeded with their agreements, the Angry Humans mobilized. They held rallies, disseminated information online, and conducted their own investigations into the alien technology and its long-term implications. Their concerns were not unfounded. As the first Vortani technologies were integrated, disturbing reports began to emerge. There were unexplained malfunctions, accidents at facilities using alien tech, and strange side effects in treatments that were supposed to revolutionize healthcare. The corporate media downplayed these incidents, but the Angry Humans collected and spread the evidence. Then, a turning point occurred. A young scientist named Dr. Emily Rowe, part of a team studying the Vortani's agricultural enhancements, discovered a hidden genetic modifier within the alien seeds. These modifiers were not just boosting growth, but were also altering the plant's reproductive mechanisms, potentially leading to long-term ecological consequences. Armed with this information, the Angry Humans planned their most significant move yet, a worldwide broadcast of their findings, aimed at exposing the risks associated with blind acceptance of alien technology. They needed to act quickly and decisively, for they were up against powerful forces that were determined to maintain the status quo. As the chapter closes, we see Emily, flanked by other members of the Angry Humans, preparing to go live on every screen and device connected to the internet. Their message was clear and urgent. Earth must reconsider its alliance with the Vortani, or risk losing control over its own biological and ecological future. The battle for Earth's sovereignty had just begun, and only the so-called Angry Humans stood ready to lead the charge. Under the cloak of night, Emily Rowe and her team set up their makeshift studio in an abandoned warehouse. The air was thick with tension and the faint hum of old machinery. The setup was rudimentary, a cluster of screens, a tangle of wires, and a single camera pointed at a makeshift podium. It was here that the fate of their movement would be broadcasted to the world. As the clock ticked closer to the hour, Emily checked her notes one last time. Beside her, Marcus, a seasoned hacker and her closest ally, ensured their connection to the global network was secure and untraceable. They could not afford any interruptions during the broadcast. "Are we ready?" Emily's voice barely broke the silence, her eyes scanning the small crowd of dedicated followers who had risked everything to be here. Marcus gave a curt nod. "We're live in 3, 2, 1. Emily stepped into the frame, her face resolute. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. "Tonight, we share crucial information about the Vortani technologies that have been integrated into our societies. She detailed the findings, showing footage and data on the screens behind her. The genetic modifiers in the agricultural seeds were designed to make the crops dependent on Vortani-specific chemicals. The implications were dire. Earth's agriculture could become enslaved to alien technology, turning the planet's food supply into a controlled market. The broadcast was a masterclass in persuasion and urgency. Emily and her team outlined not just the problems, but also proposed solutions. They called for an immediate suspension of all Vortani tech integrations and demanded transparent international oversight on all future dealings with the aliens. As Emily spoke, Marcus monitored the influx of viewers. The numbers were climbing. Millions were watching, and their message was resonating. Live feeds showed groups of people gathering in public spaces, watching on giant screens. The ripple of awareness was turning into a wave, but with high stakes came high risks. Halfway through the broadcast, alarms blared, a sign they'd been located. "We need to wrap this up," Marcus hissed, his eyes scanning the security feeds. Emily's voice did not falter as she concluded. "We must act now to protect our planet, to preserve our autonomy. Do not let Earth become a dependency of Vortani interests. Stand with us." As the broadcast ended, the angry humans scrambled to evacuate. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as government forces closed in. The team split up, vanishing into the night with plans to regroup at a secondary location. The message had been sent, the seeds of doubt planted. Now it was up to the people of Earth to nurture these seeds into a movement that could stand against the tide of alien influence. Their escape was fraught with close calls and narrow escapes, each member of the team aware that the road ahead would be even more perilous. But there was no turning back now. They were the catalyst for a global awakening, and the next steps would determine the future of humanity. In the days following the broadcast, the world seemed to hold its breath. News outlets, both corporate and independent, churned with debates and analyses of the angry humans' revelations. Governments issued statements of concern and promised thorough investigations, while Vortani representatives denounced the accusations as fear-mongering and insisted on the safety and benefits of their technologies. Emily, now a fugitive, moved stealthily from one safe house to another. The once obscure scientist had become the face of a global resistance, her image flashing on screens worldwide, both vilified and celebrated. The public's reaction was polarized, but a growing faction of supporters rallied to the cause, organizing protests and demanding transparency. Meanwhile, the Vortani tightened their grip. In a demonstration of soft power, they released new medical treatments to the public free of charge, curing diseases that had baffled human scientists for decades. This strategic move was designed to sway public opinion back in their favor, showcasing their contributions as indispensable to human progress. However, the angry humans were steps ahead, anticipating the alien stratagem. They infiltrated a Vortani-controlled facility to obtain concrete evidence of the aliens' long-term intentions. The operation was perilous, requiring stealth technology and expert timing to avoid detection by advanced Vortani security systems. Inside the facility, Emily and a small team navigated through corridors lined with alien technology, their every move a gamble against time and exposure. They reached the core data center, where Emily accessed the Vortani's secure archives. What they discovered was chilling: a detailed plan for gradual takeover of Earth's ecosystems, transforming the planet into a production hub for the Vortani Empire. With the data downloaded onto a secure drive, they made a hasty retreat, but not before triggering an alert. The facility locked down, and they found themselves in a desperate race through a maze of security measures. Laser grids, drones, and Vortani guards became obstacles in a lethal obstacle course. Just when escape seemed impossible, a diversion created by other members of the angry humans drew the guards away, giving Emily and her team a narrow window to slip out. They left the facility bruised but triumphant, the precious data in their possession. As they regrouped, the team knew their next move would be crucial. The evidence had to be shared with the world before the Vortani could counteract or discredit it. Plans were drawn for another broadcast, this one even more damning than the first. Their operation had escalated the conflict to new heights, setting the stage for a showdown not just between Earth and the Vortani, but within humanity itself, as people had to choose sides in a fight that would determine their future sovereignty. As governments wavered between alien pressures and public outcry, the global landscape grew more volatile, teetering on the brink of a new kind of war. One fought not just for territory, but for the very essence of human autonomy. The preparations for the second broadcast were carried out with utmost secrecy. Given the heightened surveillance and the global spotlight on their activities, Emily and her team had to innovate. They decided on multiple simultaneous transmissions from various undisclosed locations, ensuring that even if one was taken down, others would continue the stream. In an abandoned factory repurposed for this critical event, Emily reviewed the new evidence with her core team. The mood was somber. The stakes had never been higher. The documents and videos they were about to share showed not only the Vortani plans for Earth's ecosystems, but also secret agreements with certain Earth governments that had promised neutrality or even support. As the broadcast hour approached, teams across the globe synchronized their systems. The chosen locations were as diverse as an underground bunker, a mobile van moving through a major city, and a secluded forest cabin, all equipped with the necessary tech to stream their message. Marcus once again was in charge of cybersecurity, setting up firewalls and scrambles to mask their digital footprints. "We're as ready as we'll ever be," he confirmed, giving Emily a nod. The screens lit up, and Emily faced the camera. Her expression was grave, her voice resolute as she began. "Tonight we present undeniable proof of a plan that threatens not only our environment, but our very sovereignty as a planet." The broadcast was a montage of leaked documents, video recordings, and first-hand testimonies from insiders who had defected from the Vortani-supported projects. Emily methodically explained each piece of evidence, linking the dots for viewers around the world. Meanwhile, the Vortani and their allies worked furiously to disrupt the transmission. Cyber attacks bombarded the networks, and tactical teams were dispatched to known resistance hubs. But the angry humans' decentralized approach paid off. Each time a signal was jammed, another took over, keeping the broadcast alive. Public reaction was immediate and explosive. Across cities worldwide, crowds gathered to watch the broadcast projected on buildings and screens in public squares. The revelations ignited a firestorm of protests against both the Vortani and complicit governments. Law enforcement struggled to manage the crowds, which in some places grew into massive demonstrations. The chant, "Stand with Earth," became a rallying cry that echoed through streets and across digital channels. As the broadcast wrapped up, Emily issued a call to action. "We must unite to demand accountability and control over our future. It is time for all of us to stand up and protect our home." Once the streams went dark, the team erased their traces and disbanded, moving to rendezvous points that had been arranged beforehand. They left behind a world awakened and enraged, now grappling with the breadth of the conspiracy against it. Governments scrambled to respond, some denying involvement, others calling for immediate sessions to address the allegations. The Vortani, realizing the scale of the backlash, prepared to make their next move, one that would involve not just diplomatic maneuvers, but possibly direct intervention. As Emily and her team regrouped in a secure location, they watched the world react, knowing they had irrevocably changed the course of human history. Now it was up to humanity to decide how to confront this new reality. The battle lines were drawn, and the next actions taken would determine the ultimate fate of Earth's independence. In the wake of the broadcast, the global atmosphere was electric, charged with a potent mix of fear, anger, and revolutionary zeal. Governments that had sided with the Vortani found themselves besieged by protests, their credibility shredded by accusations of betrayal. Others, previously neutral, convened emergency summits to reassess their positions and form a united response to the alien strategy now laid bare. Emily's next steps were calculated with precision. Knowing the impact of their revelations would provoke a strong response, she planned for the inevitable counterstrike from the Vortani and their Earth-based allies. The angry humans began to strengthen their networks, building alliances with military defectors and sympathetic politicians to secure more robust defensive positions. The Vortani, on their part, were not idle. Their initial strategy of subtle manipulation and integration had failed, exposed to the world as a scheme of domination. They shifted tactics, deploying advanced technology that was not just defensive, but aggressively invasive. Surveillance drones became a common sight in major cities, and a new type of signal jammer disrupted global communications, aiming to isolate communities and prevent a coordinated resistance. Amidst this technological onslaught, a clandestine meeting took place in a secure underground facility, hidden deep in the Swiss Alps. Here, leaders from various nations and representatives of the angry humans convened to form a coalition. The aim was clear: to devise a strategy that could counter the alien tech and reclaim control over Earth's future. The meeting was tense, with each party bringing their own agendas and mistrust. But Emily's presence as both a symbol and a tactician helped to unify the group. She presented a series of countermeasures, developed in collaboration with her team's engineers and several rogue scientists who had once worked for the Vortani. The plan centered around a new kind of electronic warfare. They would create a virus codenamed Earthbind, capable of infiltrating Vortani systems and disabling their drones and jammers. This cyberweapon required a delivery system that could bypass the aliens' advanced security protocols. Simultaneously, a grassroots movement, organized by the angry humans, spread across cities. Using guerrilla tactics, they began to reclaim territories, one block at a time. They disrupted drone operations, painted over surveillance cameras, and broadcasted encrypted messages to keep the populace informed and motivated. As Earth's defenders mobilized, the Vortani responded with increasing hostility. Their ships, once just ominous silhouettes in the skies, now became platforms for a show of force, firing warning shots near military bases and key infrastructures to demonstrate their superior firepower. Despite the display of alien might, the coalition's resolve only hardened. With the completion of the Earthbind virus, a daring plan was set into motion. A small team led by Emily herself would infiltrate a Vortani command center located on the dark side of the moon, where Earth's satellite networks were being jammed directly. The mission was fraught with danger, requiring a covert launch in a retrofitted shuttle equipped with stealth technology. As they blasted off, hidden from the Vortani sensors by a newly developed cloaking device, the team knew that the success of this operation could tip the scales in Earth's favor. Back on Earth, as the shuttle streaked across the sky, invisible yet momentous, the world watched and waited, hoping for a sign that the tide would turn. The battle for Earth was no longer just a conflict. It had evolved into a full-blown war for the soul of the planet. The shuttle hurtled through the cold vacuum of space, its trajectory a carefully guarded secret. Inside, Emily and her team braced against the forces of acceleration, their bodies pressed into the contours of their seats. The mood was a mix of grim determination and quiet resolve, each member aware of the gravity of their mission and its potential impact on Earth's struggle for autonomy. The shuttle's stealth technology, a marvel of engineering hastily developed by Earth's finest minds, cloaked their approach from Vortani sensors. As they neared the moon, the barren landscape came into view, its craters and mountains bathed in harsh light and deep shadows. Marcus, who had stayed behind, coordinated with Emily through secure channels. "You're clear for the next phase," his voice crackled over the comm system. "Remember, once you're in, we can't guarantee any backup. This is it." Emily nodded, her eyes locked on the digital displays. "Understood. We'll make it count." The landing was a silent affair, the shuttle touching down in a nondescript crater far from the Vortani command center. The team disembarked, their suits protecting them from the moon's lethal environment, and they quickly assembled their gear for the assault. Using compact, high-powered thrusters, they traversed the lunar surface, avoiding regular patrol routes that they had mapped from orbit. The command center was located within a large, domed structure, its surface an opaque material that shimmered with a metallic sheen under the sun's unfiltered rays. As they approached, Emily's team deployed a series of small robotic scouts, which infiltrated the perimeter and relayed back the layout of the interior. The center was minimally manned, as the Vortani relied heavily on automation. They breached the outer wall using a high-frequency laser cutter, creating a small, unnoticeable entry point. Once inside, they split into two groups, one to plant the Earthbind virus directly into the mainframe, and the other to set up explosive charges as a contingency plan. The interior was a maze of corridors lined with pulsating lights. They moved silently, communicating through hand signals and head-mounted displays. At the heart of the command center, they encountered their only resistance, a security detail equipped with energy weapons. A brief but intense skirmish ensued. Emily's team was better prepared, their tactics honed through simulations. They neutralized the threat with minimal noise and proceeded to the mainframe room. Here, Emily took the lead. She connected the device containing the Earthbind virus to the Vortani system. Her hands moved with practiced precision, bypassing layers of security to inject the virus into the alien network. "Virus uploaded," she whispered, her voice barely audible even in the vacuum-sealed helmet. The effect was immediate. Screens flickered and dimmed as the virus propagated through the Vortani systems, disabling the lunar base's operational capabilities, including the satellite jamming technology. With their mission accomplished, the team retreated back to their entry point, just as the first signs of system failure triggered alarms throughout the base. They exited through the breach they had created, sealed it behind them, and made a quick ascent to where their shuttle awaited. As they launched back toward Earth, behind them, the command center descended into chaos, its systems crippled, unable to coordinate the anti-Earth activities. The success of the Moon operation was a significant blow to the Vortani's control over Earth. As the news of the daring raid broke, celebrations erupted across the world. For the first time since the arrival of the aliens, humanity had not just defended, but taken the offensive, striking a decisive blow for their freedom. The aftermath of the Moon operation was palpable across the globe. Emily and her team, hailed as heroes, returned to a world energized by their success. This victory, however, was not without its consequences. The Vortani, facing a significant setback, recalibrated their strategy with a menacing resolve. In a display of power and intimidation, the Vortani unleashed a series of tactical strikes against key Earth military bases. Unlike their previous overt actions, these strikes were precise and devastating, designed to sow fear and demonstrate that the alien force still possessed formidable capabilities. The message was clear: the Earth's defiance would be met with overwhelming force. Cities around the world experienced blackouts and electronic disruptions as satellite systems, partially restored to Earth's control, became battlegrounds in space. The conflict escalated beyond diplomatic channels into full-scale warfare, with each side vying for control over information and communication networks. Amid this chaos, Emily's role transitioned from covert operative to a prominent leader in the global resistance. She took to public platforms, her speeches broadcasted from makeshift studios, often relocated to evade Vortani surveillance. Her message was one of resilience and unity, urging the world to stand together against a common enemy. The resistance formed alliances with defectors from within Vortani-aligned territories, scientists, engineers, and even disillusioned soldiers who opposed their leaders' imperialistic agendas. These defectors provided critical intelligence and technological insights, enhancing Earth's defensive and offensive capabilities. As Earth's defenses solidified, grassroots movements sprang up in every corner of the globe. Ordinary citizens, empowered by the Resistance's call to action, engaged in sabotage against Vortani installations and supply lines. These acts of defiance, though small in scale, collectively hampered the aliens' ability to maintain control over occupied regions. Simultaneously, Emily and her strategic team devised a plan to cut off the Vortani's access to Earth's resources, which they desperately needed to sustain their military efforts. This plan involved massive coordinated strikes on extraction facilities and storage depots, using both cyber attacks and physical assaults. The first of these strikes targeted a major Vortani resource processing center located in the Sahara Desert, where a significant portion of Earth's biological samples were processed before being shipped off-world. The operation was risky, involving a multinational force of special operatives and local resistance fighters. As they approached the facility under the cover of night, the air was tense with anticipation. The operation needed to be swift to prevent the Vortani from initiating a counterstrike. Explosives were placed strategically to cripple the facility without causing environmental damage, while cyber teams worked to disable the security systems. The explosion lit the night sky, a beacon of defiance that was echoed by similar operations worldwide. News of the successful raid spread like wildfire, boosting morale and emboldening the resistance. Back in the command center, Emily watched the reports coming in. Each successful operation was a step towards weakening the Vortani's hold on Earth. Yet, she knew the war was far from over. The Vortani were adapting, their tactics becoming more ruthless. As the global resistance prepared for the next phase, Emily remained a symbol of hope and determination. The battle for Earth's freedom continued, each day bringing new challenges, but also new opportunities to reclaim their home from the alien oppressors. As the resistance solidified, the Vortani shifted their focus to major urban centers, establishing strongholds within these densely populated areas. New Tokyo, a hub of technological innovation and a beacon of human resistance, became a prime target. The city was now encircled by Vortani forces, its skyline marred by the looming silhouettes of alien warships. Inside the city, a tense atmosphere prevailed. Skyscrapers were fortified and repurposed as defensive towers, and the streets transformed into a labyrinth of barricades and checkpoints. Civilians, alongside military personnel, prepared for what many believed to be an inevitable siege. Emily, coordinating with New Tokyo's defense forces, implemented a strategy to turn the city into a fortress capable of withstanding the Vortani assault. Underground networks of tunnels were expanded, allowing for movement and supply lines to remain intact, even under heavy bombardment. The Vortani began their attack at dawn. A barrage of energy projectiles rained down from the sky, testing the city's defenses. The anti-aircraft systems, upgraded with technology derived from Vortani defectors, responded with precision, shooting down several alien crafts, their wreckage crashing into the barriers beyond the city limits. On the ground, Vortani troops attempted to breach the main gates using advanced exoskeleton suits that enhanced their strength and speed. The resistance fighters, equipped with EMP devices and heavy artillery, managed to hold the lines, turning the city gates into a fiery battleground. Amid the chaos, Emily received an urgent message. A small team of Vortani operatives had infiltrated the city's central hub, aiming to take down the communication systems. Without hesitation, she joined a squad of special forces to counter the infiltration. Navigating through the war-torn streets, Emily and her team reached the central hub, a towering building that housed the city's AI-controlled defense network. Inside, they encountered the Vortani operatives, engaged in a fierce firefight within the dimly lit corridors of the server room. Utilizing tactical combat drones, Emily's team managed to outmaneuver the Vortani, neutralizing the threat and securing the hub. The swift action prevented a critical communication blackout, crucial for coordinating the city's defenses and for rallying support from neighboring regions. With the immediate threat averted, Emily returned to the command center, her mind racing with the next steps. The resistance had held the line for now, but the siege was far from over. The Vortani were regrouping, and their next assault would be even more determined. Recognizing the need for a counter-offensive, Emily contacted other resistance leaders, planning a series of strikes against Vortani supply lines and support vessels. These operations were designed not only to relieve pressure on New Tokyo, but also to demonstrate the resilience and capability of Earth's forces. As night fell, the city braced for the next wave of attacks. Emily stood atop a command tower overlooking the illuminated cityscape, her resolve hardened. New Tokyo would be the cornerstone on which the fate of Earth's resistance would be built, a symbol of humanity's indomitable spirit and a testament to their will to fight no matter the odds. The siege of New Tokyo had galvanized global support, highlighting the potential for human resilience and tactical ingenuity. Emily capitalized on this momentum to forge the Alliance of the Pacific, a coalition of nations and cities across the Pacific Rim committed to mutual defense and strategic offensives against the Vortani. As the alliance convened for its inaugural meeting aboard the USS Evergreen, a retrofitted aircraft carrier that now served as a mobile command center. Representatives from Japan, Australia, the United States, and smaller Pacific nations laid out their resources and capabilities. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of urgency, but also a collective resolve. Emily, leading the discussion, proposed a series of coordinated strikes targeting Vortani command ships currently positioned over the Pacific. These ships were not just war vessels, but also served as communication hubs for the Vortani forces. Taking them out would cripple the alien command structure and disrupt their operations across the region. The plan, dubbed Operation Trident, involved simultaneous attacks using a combination of drone swarms, stealth submarines, and cyber warfare. The key to its success lay in precision and synchronization. The timing had to be impeccable to avoid detection by the Vortani's advanced sensors. Preparations for Operation Trident moved swiftly. Drone operators and submarine crews were briefed, cyber teams prepared their tools, and Emily oversaw the finalization of the attack plans. Each segment of the operation was rehearsed, with contingencies in place for potential Vortani countermeasures. The day of the operation arrived with a tense calm. As night fell over the Pacific, the Allied forces made their move. Stealth submarines, nearly undetectable beneath the ocean's surface, positioned themselves beneath the Vortani ships. At the same time, squadrons of drones, launched from hidden bases along the coastlines, soared through the night sky. Emily monitored the operation from the command center on the Evergreen, her eyes fixed on the live feeds streaming in from the various units. The first phase was successful. The submarines deployed specialized torpedoes that silently ascended towards the unsuspecting Vortani ships. The explosions were muted but effective, ripping through the hulls of the alien crafts and sending them into disarray. Simultaneously, the cyber teams launched a massive cyber attack, infiltrating Vortani communication networks to sow confusion and delay their response. As the Vortani scrambled to regain control, the drones struck, targeting the damaged ships with precision strikes. The operation was a resounding success. 3 Vortani command ships were destroyed, and several others were severely damaged, significantly weakening the Vortani presence in the Pacific. The victory was celebrated across the alliance, boosting morale and proving that the Vortani were not invincible. However, the victory was not without its costs. The Vortani, enraged by the attack, retaliated by targeting civilian coastal settlements, causing significant casualties. The brutality of these strikes served as a grim reminder of the stakes involved in this war. In response, Emily called for increased defensive measures and humanitarian aid for the affected areas. She also initiated diplomatic efforts to expand the alliance, reaching out to European and African nations to join the global resistance. The war was far from over, but with each victory, Emily's leadership and the resilience of Earth's defenders were forging a path toward eventual triumph. As the global resistance grew, Emily's strategy evolved into a comprehensive campaign that integrated military actions, diplomatic maneuvers, and public relations efforts to unify Earth against the Vortani threat. The Alliance of the Pacific had sparked a worldwide movement, with new coalitions forming in Europe, Africa, and the Americas, each contributing to the resistance's growing momentum. In the war's final year, the Earth's collective forces prepared for the most ambitious part of their campaign, the liberation of major cities around the world that remained under Vortani control. The planned operation, codenamed Liberation Day, was set to be a simultaneous global offensive, targeting key Vortani strongholds to cripple their operational capabilities permanently. Emily, now recognized as the de facto leader of Earth's united forces, coordinated the efforts from the USS Evergreen, which had become a symbol of Earth's defiance and resilience. The final plans were meticulously crafted, involving intricate details that ranged from synchronized attacks and cyber warfare to psychological operations intended to demoralize the Vortani forces. The night before Liberation Day, Emily addressed the world in a broadcast that was both a call to arms and a message of hope. "Tomorrow, we reclaim our planet," she declared, her voice steady and inspiring. "Together, we will end this occupation. We stand united, not just as nations, but as a species bound by our desire for freedom and peace." As dawn broke, the operation commenced. In New Tokyo, resistance fighters surged through the streets, overtaking Vortani positions as Allied air support blotted out the sky. Similar scenes unfolded across the globe, from the ruins of Paris to the deserts near Cairo and the vast plains of the Midwest. The Vortani, overwhelmed by the scale and coordination of the attacks, faltered. Their command structures crumbled under the onslaught, and their ground forces were cut off from reinforcements. For the first time, the Vortani experienced the full wrath of a united Earth fighting for its survival and future. In space, the final battle raged around the Vortani mothership, which orbited Earth like a dark omen. A fleet composed of ships from every Allied nation engaged the massive vessel. Inside the USS Evergreen, Emily watched as the combined forces of Earth used every tactic and weapon at their disposal. The battle was fierce, with significant losses on both sides, but the resolve of Earth's defenders never wavered. After hours of relentless conflict, the turning point came when a squad of elite pilots, including some who had once served the Vortani as prisoners of war, managed to penetrate the mothership's defenses and deliver a decisive blow to its core. The explosion that followed was visible from Earth, a bright flare marking the end of Vortani dominion. The news of the mothership's fall spread quickly, sparking celebrations across the world. The Vortani forces, now leaderless and demoralized, surrendered or retreated, their will to fight all but extinguished. Liberation Day turned into a day of jubilation as people from all walks of life took to the streets, embracing their freedom and the promise of a new beginning. In the aftermath, Emily addressed the world once more. "Today we begin the task of rebuilding," she stated, surrounded by leaders from the global coalition. "We must learn from this conflict and work together to forge a future that honors both our diversity and our unity." As the Earth moved into a period of reconstruction and reconciliation, Emily's role shifted from military leader to peacemaker. Under her leadership, Earth began to heal its wounds, using the lessons of the past to build a society that would be more just, inclusive, and prepared to face any future challenges together. The war had ended, but the journey toward a better world was just beginning.